isn't always the best.
Yeah.
And this is going to make it really cool. This is fucking cool.
Well,
Ready.
action. I'm sitting live at Summer Strong
Yeah.
with Zach Evanesh.
Let's go.
Man, we caught up on the phone, and I was sharing some struggles that I was having with the current high schoolers in which
Yeah.
I was coaching, and you're just
I
gave me the
struggle
best
too.
Zach Evanesh. It was great.
I tell I can't remember, somebody was saying something to me. They're like, we're trying to talk about, hey, do you say this? Do you say, I'm like, I like to share my struggles. I don't want people to think that when I'm coaching, because I've been doing it for a long time, it's easy. I got it. I still make mistakes. I still struggle. I struggle with the changes of today, I know we'll get into it, so we'll let it rip. But I think it's important for people because they watch on Instagram or YouTube and they get this 1/100th of a percent, not even. And I'm like, it ain't always like that. You just caught it in the great moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you joke with training coaches and teaching coaches in respect to demos, you just got to be good for one. So when that same coach, knowing that,
That's right.
sees one clip of another coach leading or moving or a group moving,
Yes.
then they judge the whole program based off that movement, in good and bad.
Or they judge it by who's in the video, meaning I said this, my buddies are here from Business of Strength, Varsity House. I said, people's perception of you is their reality, meaning if I have a gym and let's say I'm in New York City or I'm on the board of New York City, well, who lives up there? Celebrities, pro athletes. And so if somebody sees you even taking a photo with a pro athlete or you were at this thing and you trained somebody once, they perceive you as better because they think you built that guy or that gal. And Joe Ken even said it. Somebody posted something on LinkedIn or social about kind of measuring the strength coach, and he's like, whoever wins the most games, that's who the best strength coach is. Like laughing that even if you ain't good, but if the team wins, you're great, and if the team loses next year, you suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy,
I mean,
crazy, and unfortunate.
everything rolls downhill.
Yeah,
Often at the higher levels, the head coach says, all right, well, it was the strength coach's fault. They didn't prepare him. They cut that guy loose
Yes.
to try to buy them one more, 2 more, 3 more years and bring
Right.
a new coach in. I just feel for that strength coach who knows they're that guy, the change.
Strength coaches have said, Joe Ken says this, my buddy Jesse Ackerman, he's like, we are in football, and he's like, we know what we got into. We know that this is how it works, that if the team is losing, we maybe got another year, but probably not, and we're going to be moving, and we're going to live in many different states. And so if you're okay with that, not okay with that, if you know that's how it is, and you're like, this is what I signed up for, then you could embrace it, and you won't get emotional over it. But if you are like, hey, that's not the life I want to live, then don't get involved in football because in football, there's just way too many moving parts. I've seen sometimes the best football players never show up to the weight room, never follow through. They were just physically, especially at the high school level, if they're young men ahead of the others physically and mentally, it don't matter what you do. And we're starting to learn some of that in the college sector with all the transfers. Can I develop you if you're only here for this semester? No. And so we want to deep dive in training. I know you love training, Tex. You deep dive. You want the science, the peeling away the layers. How many layers can I peel away if you show up? It's spring football. And so then we're in season spring. Then you're going home for a few weeks. Then when you come back, we're preseason. Now I start to rethink, do I need to make this complicated? You know what? I think I'm going to put him on some machines because do I want to go all in on this guy? He's already been to 3 different schools. He's probably leaving here too. And now I think it's taken away a lot of the purity of strength and conditioning, sports performance, whatever you want to call it. And for me, it's heartbreaking because I'm very passionate. I'm not so black and white of we win, that's what counts. I want the deeper aspect of training. And so that's not my style to be in that college sector anymore.
Yeah, even conversations here at Summer Strong with many of the college level coaches and even the Sornex where they're shifting and creating more machines These awesome machines, which I'll B-roll. I was messing around with those with training this
Yes.
morning. Because those are, you can just throw a kid on there. You
Correct.
didn't spend 3 years with them developing them. They're still creating their power, their strength, stability, and you don't have to teach them the more complex lifts.
Yeah.
So even big businesses are seeing this change and making major adjustments
Yeah.
to fill that need at that level.
I would say we were viewed as teachers. Coach Ethan Reeve always said, when coaches are like, I don't want to teach the clean, it's too complicated. He said, but you are a teacher. You're supposed to understand how to break it down, how to reverse engineer it, how to introduce them with it. But, Rusty Witt told me a year ago, 50% of the football team is new every year. And so football teams, from what I understand, are not really recruiting true freshmen. I mean, they say sometimes like 2 or 3 or 4 true freshmen come out. So I remember way back in the day, '08, Joe Ken was at Louisville, maybe it was '09, and they were playing Rutgers. So he brought his staff and trained with us. And I remember we were talking, it's Adam Fipe, it's Joe Connolly. There's a guy, Brian Dermody, who I don't know if he's at Iowa anymore. I think he became a pastor, was a strength coach, powerlifter. But all the other guys are still coaching. Long story short, they were telling me about their introductory, what are you doing for the true freshmen? Like, we go for 6 weeks, all body weight, all unilateral. We're doing one-arm push-ups against the wall, Bulgarian split squats, assisted eccentric pistol squats, 5-second eccentrics, building them because they're coming from a high school program where all they did was squat, bench, and clean. Now,
If they're lucky.
right, now those introductory programs are out because you don't get that. So it's going to be real interesting to see what's going to happen to college sports, of course, with NIL, but more so, it's a money thing. So, like, kids are, now they're going to go to junior college, or I'm going where you pay me. It's just changed. Coaches, for the most part, are purists. It's just this thing that, like, we love training, we love coaching. And now you're not teaching as much. You're like this, I don't understand. You're like a vehicle and just kind of moving them to places. And maybe, you're still in your 30s, but I almost wonder if, like, the generation of coaches that are in their 20s, if it just makes more sense to them because they grew up on a phone swiping away. So they're, like, not in shock when kids are coming and going because they've kind of viewed life as the way they view a
15-second video.
or a 5-second video.
Bored.
Yeah, I'm just swiping away. So what? That kid left at a semester. That's normal. And for example, when I'm coaching, yes, sometimes I'm recording videos, but I'm not texting anybody. I'm not checking emails or anything. But I said to a buddy of mine, I said, I think the high school kids today, if they saw their coach like on their phone, they wouldn't be like, oh my God, coach is on his phone, coach is on her phone. They'd be like, yeah, so what? We're always on our phone. That's what we do. But we, as the pure strength coach, you'd be like, no. You're locked in. This is their time. You're not supposed to be touching your phone. And I was telling you, my buddy coaches lacrosse. His practices are an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow,
But he
that's
says,
short.
back in the day, 2 hours, 2.5
Yeah.
hours. I go, I bet you the kids like it today. He goes, they love it. They love a shorter practice. They don't want to do more. And he said, and if they can, now they want to go to club lacrosse or club wrestling or club name the sport for the next practice of the day. So they're never maximizing that session. They're kind of holding back a little so they could get to the next thing that day, and sometimes 3 things that day. And so sports are in a weird place. I'm calling it lately the matrix.
Explain.
Meaning, I'm a dad. My daughter's going to be in college next year. My son's a sophomore. He's been big in baseball, but he's played basketball. He's wrestled. My daughter played basketball, but very heavy with tennis. And it's interesting, like starting with my daughter, she is a very good tennis player. She had 1 loss her senior year. She's a 2-time county champ. Her loss was to the runner-up in the States in a tiebreaker. And you think there's going to be all these opportunities when you're younger. And the reality is there's not, because we're in South Carolina. She loves it in the South, the warm weather. And we're looking and visiting at all these schools. And there's sometimes not one American tennis player on the team. They're all international from Ukraine and Poland and different areas of, Russia, China, Japan. And it's like, whoa, we've been investing in this, not because we think there's this payout at the end, but because my daughter loved tennis. It was like in her blood. But you do hope as a parent, hey, there'll be a payoff. Like, we're not going to pay for college. Well, the college she's going to, the first email was, we would love to connect with you, but we are putting this out front that there is no scholarship for women's tennis here. And you're like, you're kind of heartbroken by that, because on a football team, 80-something players, nobody's paying a dime. And some of them don't even play. Yet if you're in tennis, I've seen my daughter, like, bleed out there. Like, she once had a match that was like over 3 hours in Georgia. It must have been over 100 degrees on the court. Just so tough. And so you just think that there's going to be, or you hope that there's going to be something at the end of the tunnel. And I've coached at Rutgers and Lehigh, but before NIL. But even during that time, Tex, what I saw was every 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks, a kid quits the team. Some kids would transfer. Now, it was pretty rare. I did see some kids transfer, but for the most part, they quit, or they were kind of like, the coach was like, listen, like, you're just not making it. And so they kind of just stepped down. These are kids that, I worked with wrestling that are state champs. Then they come to a school and, like, they're like sixth in the depth of it. And this thing that they grew up doing, mom and dad hope that they're going to be able to watch them in college. And now they're like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I am just been doing it all my life, all summer long. I don't even know what it's like to have a vacation.
Yeah.
And so you're in this matrix. My kid's the best. My kid's this. My kid's that. And then you get to college and they're like, ah. And not only that, what the percent of kids who compete in college, right? What have you heard is the percent of high school kids go to compete in college?
Any sport at all.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking maybe 5,
Yep.
6%.
Something like that. Well, then by sophomore year, about half of them quit, at least a third. And how many are going D1? And so, but sometimes nobody in the school goes D1 in any sport in that year. But then, but you have this thing like kids play soccer in New Jersey. There's travel clubs that have the kids, or I guess their parents, sign a contract that if you're on our, McQuilkin travel soccer teams, you do not play for your high school.
Yeah.
That to me is heartbreaking to see, the dismantling and the division of school sports. It's really sad, Tex.
Yeah, I saw that exact same thing 2014. I was up working at a Episcopal school in Washington, D.C., and their soccer team was good, but they still had students that would come to, like, the PE weight class with me as the full school strength coach, and then they were amazing athletes. It's like, what are you doing? Well, then learn to come. Or on club soccer, they've already secured a Division I scholarship, so now it's just I have to get my PE credit for school.
Yeah.
So,
but a lot of kids are on these travel, whether it's baseball, soccer, basketball, lacrosse, they don't make it to D1 sports. And it's kind of, I don't know if when the coaches are in front of all the parents, they're like, if you are here, we will put you on the path to being a D1 athlete. I don't know if that's what they say or that's kind of the message that comes out. But some of the best wrestlers I've worked with at the D1 level were not the absolute killers in high school, but they made more progress freshman year than they built more sophomore year. And sometimes it took them as a fifth-year senior to break through. Now what we're seeing is in wrestling and probably other sports, you were mentioning the NBA, like kids getting recruited out of high school. Well, in high school, you have 17-year-olds beating Olympic wrestlers. You never heard of that, but that's one out of a gazillion. And so what I'm also noticing, Tex, somebody made a great analogy when I said the middle athlete is getting removed. It's like the ultra elite or you're getting killed. He said it's like the economy. There's no middle class. I said, wow, what a great analogy. So Okay, you want to play, you want to wrestle, you want to play football. Football still hasn't been infiltrated with that year-round stuff. I think certain sections of Florida and California have the 7 on 7
Oh,
stuff.
it's all Texas. Yeah,
Texas,
it's year
anywhere
round.
warm, right? Anywhere
Hmm.
warm. But baseball is, I remember being in Florida for my kids. Every time we had the winter break, it was half tennis and baseball and half vacation. And so my daughter was on this, we'd go to the Rick Macy Academy where they filmed like what was the movie? The Williams sister, Sir
Oh,
Richard. Was that what they called the movie?
I don't know,
The
but Will Smith.
documentary on, yes, that was Rick Macy. By the way, the Rick Macy Academy, amazing coaches. Not just tactically or technically, but the energy, the atmosphere, the just the whole, like, it was electric. I loved it. High, like, just high level. Sometimes you go to places, for example, my son has been on travel baseball teams. All this stuff is promised. I'd say, hey, is my son going to be taught how to pitch? Oh, yeah, we develop all them here. We do the pitching, we do this. Then it's like, yeah, you want to do it? Okay, you paid your $5,000 or $8,000 to be on this travel team. Okay, we have Coach McQuilkin. You could contact him and you could do privates. Well, but I'm on this travel team. I thought I was paying for coaching. Then every week, there's like random kids rolling up to the dugout and taking your son's spot. And you're like, this kid ain't even on this team. He's on their other team.
Hmm.
And as a coach, as I've been saying, this guy that loves the purity of it, it starts to break your heart. You start to see, your child who you need to protect, not, protect them from everything, but you just don't it seems like you're getting stabbed in the back.
And it's taking away from the trainability. So the long-term development,
Yep.
skill-wise, of the athlete. So what travel club ball is, and this is infecting lacrosse, and it makes me angry. It's not development. So it's just games.
Yep.
You go to Florida, you play games. So then your son is
You can have
getting.
2 games a day. We're gonna be there for this long ass tournament.
So he gets 8 at bats. That's not development.
No.
That's 8 at bats versus batting practice, because we're taking away batting practice
Who
and
taught these
development
kids
time.
how to field? Hey, have these
Nobody.
right, nobody. How about let's look at it from a sports performance strength coach standpoint, whatever phrase people want to use, right, Tex? Is it normal for a high school girl to have both ACLs torn in high school? We
No.
know it's not, but it happens all the effing time. What about a middle school kid breaking his elbow, pitching, or getting Tommy John surgery?
Oh my
Should that
God.
happen? It does happen, and I'm going to tell you why it happens. We're looking at kids who are pitching, throwing 60, 70, 80 per game, yet they can't do a push up, not 10 push ups, not 20. Now, here's what's I say. I had a conversation with K Star about this, Kelly Starrett. How like this is like it's almost like criminal, we said. If you're going to run a travel team, do a dynamic warm up with the kids. Do push ups. Do band pull aparts. Do walking lunges. My son started playing baseball at age 5. I think I never saw a dynamic warm up till 8th grade and never push ups. And still dumb things like, hey, you lost the game, go run. So now they think exercise is punishment.
No.
There's and I get mad at myself because my dad is from Romania and Israel. So when we moved to America, my dad puts me in sports like soccer, and I always say I wish I knew American sports like football and baseball because I could have coached, but I don't know anything about it. And so you you raise your kids, and on these baseball travel teams, who's on the all-star team? Not my son, but the coach's son who drops the ball in the outfield over and over. It don't matter. And so I had to tell my son, can we curse, Tex? I try.
I'm gonna bleep it out. But
Okay.
you do you.
I had to say to my son one day, Ethan, he was young, 3rd grade, maybe 4th grade, 5th grade. I said, you're going to have to work harder than everybody. He was sitting in the back, and he was like a alternate on the all-star team. And I go, Daddy never played baseball, and Daddy don't go to the bars every weekend with these guys, and I'm not their buddies. I said, basically, Daddy's not in the bleep sucking club. And he was like, and I said, do you understand what I'm saying? I can't help you. So your problems will only be solved if you hit the ball out of the park. And even then, there's politics. Even at, you think, hey, I'm going to get to high school, there will be no politics. It continues. And so, Tex, so what's the answer, right? I could complain and rant about this. What is the answer? The answer starts with coaches who are educated, but who genuinely care. If I genuinely care about the long-term health of a kid, meaning, hey, we could win this game if Tex pitches 10 more. But I also need to think, if I keep throwing Tex, he won't be able to one day throw a football with his, first son. And so you must think, is this exercise good just for now, or is it going to negatively impact him 5 to 10 years from now because I'm doing wear and tear and I'm just focusing on points on the board? And I think if you genuinely care about the people, the kids, whatever you want to say, the age group, then you will educate yourself on what is best. And it's also not just happening at youth or even high school. I'm not going to mention his name. He won't care. He was a pretty outspoken guy, but I'm not going to mention his name. Played in the NFL for, I think, like 13, 14 years. And he was, like, making a post on social kind of ranting about, like, this coach should get fired. Like, they have had a losing season over and over again. I go, if they've been losing so much, why doesn't the coach say, drop the ego and say, whatever we're doing is not working. We must change this. He goes, because in football, the ego is more important than winning. I go, even in the NFL, they will protect the ego and say, this is my way, versus rather than be winning and lose their job. He goes, absolutely. Football is a fucked up sport. And it's crazy that the ego to say, we're doing it my way, I'm right, I'm better, is more important than building a winning team in the NFL. And then let's go down. Now in college, if it's about winning or you're going to get fired. But why did Nick Saban leave? Because even as much as he was winning, he was building better people. Isn't that in the All Blacks book, Legacy? They said, like, better humans make better teammates, something to that effect?
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in many interviews with Saban, he highlights that, and one of the best quotes out there.
Character.
Yeah, character. And I love his view on leadership. He's like, if you want to be liked, go sell ice cream.
Oh, yes.
If you want to be team captain, like, don't expect to be liked.
Do you know, a couple months ago, I spoke at Amondo Strength and Conditioning Clinic with Boyd Epley.
Awesome.
And Boyd, I know you guys, when you were with Power Athlete, interviewed him twice. And I don't remember if he mentioned it, but he spoke about creating a like a leadership council.
Yep.
Did he mention that? It was like he brought, I can't remember if you had to be a senior, but if you wanted to be a leader, and let's say you're the leader and I have a problem, I'm not going to go to the coach to complain. I'm going to go to the leadership council, and their job was essentially to say, the reason why XYZ is wrong is because you show up late. You're not working hard enough. You miss our meals. When we're lifting, you're not working. Like, the leaders were the ones who are going to say, this is the problem. You're not doing XYZ. And I think that empowers
Oh, yeah. And then
the players.
It develops the culture and the expectation of the team. Because the
Big
coaches
time.
have those expectations. Have they communicated it down? So it is clear, and everyone knows the guidelines, and that's why I love the captain, because you're in this position, and it's your first exposure to difficult conversations, confrontation.
Didn't you tell me to read Captain's Class, or did Josh Sucher tell me to get it? He may have bought it for me. I feel like you guys are always the book guys.
We are.
Yeah.
But it's because there's so much to learn, and then you do appreciate learning more. Because a lot of coaches don't, because the ego's in place, which is okay.
I feel like if I'm not getting better as a coach, I have zero right to tell a kid, you got to get better. But it's like I'm a fraud. If I'm not, I'm done developing as a coach. I already know it all.
And
it's
a big key
fraud.
of that is self-awareness. You don't realize you're a fraud if you're a fraud. But then in self-awareness, and why I love coaching, and especially at the middle school and high school level, more often than not, a lesson that I start to see that my kids need, it's almost like a reflection of, I could use a little bit of more of that in my life as well. This past season, buy-in from seniors started to tank those middle season lulls.
Yeah,
So
why
then
does
it's like,
that happen? Why do you think that happens?
so with this particular team, it was like, well, if we're gonna lose this game, why try? So then it's like,
I've heard
okay,
similar.
I'm gonna not try so I don't fail and I save
It's
face.
a crazy attitude
Yeah.
to
So that
just like, why not like claw your way and lose with dignity? Why is that a lost art form?
in my life, if it's thinking like if it's sport and competition, yes, I have that mentality. But then where else in life where it's like I'm not willing to take the risk? Okay, because then I will save face here. So now I have to then step up in these certain opportunities. So then look for small wins in my life to take this. So now I have, like you said, you would share experiences and failures with your team.
Hmm.
I now was trying to find failures to then present to them to say, hey, I'm still learning and growing, and I'm 20 years your elder.
Yeah, and if you're not making mistakes and failing, you're probably not really challenging yourself. You're just kind of like in the neutral zone. You're in the gray. But what you said is interesting because I heard a coach say that to me that they were going to a game and they were like, "Oh, how many points you think they'll score on us today?" And I was like, "Who teaches kids to
Well, that
think
makes me
that
angry.
way?" Yeah, what like, and then they start saying things like, "Well, like it's near the end. I just need to be ready for my travel team." And I can tell you something I'm proud of, Tex. That so we live in a little town, as you know. You've been to my house.
Manasquan.
Yep, 2 square miles. The K-8 school is on one side. They got great lacrosse, by the way. K-8 on this side, high school on the other side. And so my daughter was, a standout tennis player, and private schools knew about her and were reaching out, and you could come here for free. And I said, Summer, you could actually be great in your backyard. You're going to have to do extra. You may not have the amenities that a private school has, but I promise you, you could be great. If you want to go to public school, you could do it. Because that's a thing now. Right now, the private schools are really starting to dominate public schools because there's no boundary to where the kids could come from. But at the banquet senior year, and I love her talking about coaches that you get upset with. Her coach, I told him, I go, you're a great coach because my daughter's intense and he knows how to like be the yin to the yang. Very impressive. He also coaches basketball. Like the way he stays calm, I said, dude, I don't know how you do it. But at the senior banquet, he said, you dream of getting like a blue chip tennis player like Summer, but then you also hear nightmares that they'll say things like, well, I'm not going to come to practice. I'll just come to the matches. Or I'm only going to come to the big matches or just the tournaments. He's like, Summer did none of that. And he goes, and the way it really solidified for me was her last match was in the county finals. And it was like almost gave me a heart attack because I don't understand scoring still in tennis. But she was in a tiebreaker and she's like playing this girl for the third time and it's really hard. And she wins the tiebreaker and she gets off the court and the newspaper guy's there and he's like, hold up your plaque picture. And she goes, where's such and such playing? And Coach Ritchie is like, she's over there. And he said, not 30 seconds later, she's in the back of the fence hyping up her teammate where, they wanted to like interview her for the newspaper. And to me, I was like, that's everything, Summer, because tennis, yes, I've seen 90-year-olds playing tennis, but I go, that being a great teammate is like one of the best compliments to be known of. And I wish I followed sports more, but I heard of an NFL Hall of Famer saying that during his induction speech. He said, listen, I'm here because I've scored all these points and did all this stuff. He's like, but the best award is my teammates said I was a great teammate. And that is really lost today, Tex. And so the question is, how do we bring that back? Well, I think it's not a coach or just, not just the lacrosse team, the baseball team, the wrestling team, the football team. It has to be a school-wide culture where everybody wants everybody to win. Like lacrosse is playing and we just finished our soccer game. Let's go to the lacrosse field. Cheer! We got to cheer them on. Or, hey, big day tomorrow for lacrosse. We're doing a short practice and then we're going to watch lacrosse. But you don't see that. You see coaches who are like, hey, you're on this team. Don't join that other team because then blah, blah, blah. You hear it in like, you always hear wrestlers saying, hey, football players should wrestle. I go, well, guess what? A lot of wrestlers should play football so they could spend more time in the weight room and get meaner. But we don't hear that. You always hear the wrestlers saying, they should do with us. You got to have the two-way street. You can't just take and not give. And so we're in that world where even under the same roof, let's say you and I are at John Smith High School. You're a lacrosse coach. I'm wrestling coach. You and I, we understand. We would have a sit down and you'd be like, Zach, I could get your guys in better shape, more power, more athletic. And then I'd be like, you know what? I need some of your guys who are like tougher to get on the wrestling team. Yes, let's have a meeting with our teams today after school. Let's start doing some training together. Hey, Zach, I'll have captains practices where your guys can come once a week. Hey, I'll have your guys come to our open mat once a week. But we don't have that. We have, it's I, me. Not just from the kids. Where do you think they're learning it from? The coaches, the adults, the club sports. And I don't see too many administrators bringing people together. And so if you want to see winning teams, you must build a whole organization and culture around it. The whole school must take pride in it. We can't just take pride in football and then everything else is secondary. Or my school is big basketball, everything else is secondary. I want everybody to win. And I don't see that. Coming from adults, they don't give a shit what the other team is doing. And I don't think you could win at the highest levels.
No.
Like in the NFL, you see some of these players like taking care of the custodians or the chef or the people that work in the kitchen because they know we're only as good as the food and the people who clean and take care of us. That is no ego, being humble. Jocko Willing says it. Or what's the ego is the enemy, Ryan Holiday. Jocko even says it with teams. He's like, you want to build a great team? Decentralized command. Give them leadership. Give them opportunity to make mistakes. They make a little mistake. Have a quick meeting with them. Give them one or two things. Let them go and win and lead. Let them do it. I don't see that in schools anymore.
And
culture.
We're aligned that there's such an opportunity, agnostic of sport, ball, stick, otherwise,
correct,
to accomplish that with a barbell.
Yeah.
So here we have a
weight room unifies the school.
It's all movement.
Yeah.
And then you are, and I heard one of the speakers say it earlier, you're focused, I think it was Andy Galpin, like you're focused on, it's you versus you.
Yes.
Even though we are squatting different weights,
correct,
and you're much stronger than I.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you accepted that so quickly. Then it's still within my respect to my program, my chart that I'm following, my plan. I'm still getting better. And at no point do I deviate and just throw on whatever you're doing or feel bad about myself.
When you compare, that happens. Tex, also interesting is yesterday, me and Joe Riggio went to a commercial gym. And the equipment was awesome. But when you go in, this is where we are as a world. Everybody's got AirPods. So the music in the gym is like shit. Everybody's listening to whatever they want.
The less you curse, the less I have to edit. So.
Okay. Also, the music in the gym is low. And here's what's missing. Nobody doing anything together.
No.
And you're done with your cable row set. You don't even get up to see who wants to work in. You just put your phone down, and now you're looking at YouTube movies or whatever you're doing. So I think as a society, we're so far removed from that. And I remember when I started coaching at my high school 6 years ago, a kid entered the weight room with AirPods. And I said, we don't wear AirPods here. And he was like, took them out, like, looked at me like, what? I said, yeah, we're here together. How can I coach you if you're plugged out? How can you be a teammate if you're more worried about your music? So I said, guys, you can make a playlist. Make as many playlists as you want. Here's my phone. Do it. Whatever music you like is what we're doing. But also, what if there's something dangerous happen? You can't hear me. And I could only squat heavy if my favorite song is on. Well, what if I go to this lacrosse game and we're away at our crosstown rival and the kids are shouting obscenities about my mom and my sister. That stuff happens. I need my favorite song to score, coach. And so all this convenience, all this my music, me, hey, I'm going to do my. We is greater than me. So this is a rant. How do we bring it together? The people who are of influence need to actually do leadership stuff. Meaning, if you are an athletic director, a school principal, you need to bring everybody together and say, this is our school. This is what we stand for. This is what I envision us doing together. Now, what did you say earlier? If there's no clear if there's no expectations, nobody knows what the standard is. What did you say?
Something along those lines. But imagine my parents' expectations then become the student athlete's expectations, unless they're like a senior and mature. And then there's AD, athletic department
Correct. Yep.
expectations. Then there's head coach expectations. And then there's football expectations where they don't value any other sport.
Yes, we do it our way. And so that causes fragmentation. That causes no team. That causes disrespect of one team to the next, or one coach over the other. I'm more important than you. We do, that is not good.
One interesting thing to say on that, and then one positive, that it is being accomplished at certain schools. So the interesting thing is, there was a Division I high school, Division I college lacrosse coach that came to Texas, and just being in the team circuits, I had the opportunity to just talk with him before the game, and knowing this as a growing up in Houston and understanding football culture, and then picking up lacrosse, connected to football politics. I asked him about how he was handling it, because
football is God
it was a
in
public
Texas.
School. And this man is a world-renowned lacrosse coach. And now you had a football coach, and he said he's never been spoken down to like he was from the high school football coach. So a world-class, accomplished coach that is just giving back to the game, essentially, is now just being put down because it's not football.
Yeah, I know that life, and I've seen that, and I unfortunately have lived it. And you can't pay me to be rude to other people or to look down on them. We're on the same team. Let's win together.
Public school.
Yeah.
And so then the positive, I just interviewed Patrick Nolan in Parker, Colorado. So he runs a facility, Pivotal, and he also has a contract with a local high school. I forget the high school's name. But he has parlayed his strength training into taking over the leadership council at this high school. And so he explained that a little bit, but it's juniors only. So then it's just preparing them for their senior year to take over responsibilities.
Nice.
Reason it's juniors is like spring semester, those football dudes then step into like football fall. If he had seniors, then they would be spring and they'd be see ya.
That's right. And like we said, 5, 6, maybe 7% are competing in college. In fact, Tex, even like when they do those signing days at high schools, like you might sign, like you might be taking the pictures. Hey, Tex McQuilkin is going to whatever.
University of Miami.
Yes, and then a month later, you're like, I'm not even going to college, or are there a week. You drop off. So it's like, there's so much, when seniors are kind of done with sports, it's interesting how some of them are like completely done, or there's just too much like unknown there. Just, man, what you said is really heartbreaking to hear, that this world-class coach is getting talked down on. Yeah. Here's what I would have done if I'm the football coach. Coach, I understand you're world-class. I'd love to take you out for lunch. I would love to hear what you've done that has helped you succeed and what you think are mistakes. Lunch on me. I would love to take you out if you have the time. Yep. Or come talk to my team.
Yeah.
No, I'm too good to learn. I am God. That is a major problem. And I got to tell you, you know where that could be fixed? The athletic director could say,
What if they're both?
What do you mean, what if they're both?
in Texas, more often than not, the football.
That's right. That is correct. Is the athletic director. They don't teach a class. Yeah. But the athletic director, I believe anybody who's in a coach, teacher, supervision standpoint, you essentially, you don't have an oath. It's like a silent oath, like police have an oath to protect and serve. Your number one job as a coach is to protect the athlete, to do what is best for the athlete, to treat them as if they are your own child, even if you don't have children. And so, what is best for them? How should they be treated? Not just on what they could perform in the sport field. But you're right. What if they're both? What the administrator really should say, here at John Smith High School or whatever you want to call it, Susie Smith High School, these are our values. This is what we stand for. And so if I'm going to tell you now, if you're here and there's disrespect towards other coaches, or you are not, treating these kids like humans, then it's over. And there is, I don't know how it is in Texas, but in New Jersey, I see it. I've heard about it in other states. They're struggling to find coaches for high schools. Mm-hmm. So teaching, people don't want to go into teaching because the schools are getting pretty messy. Younger kids who get out of college who have a sport background, back in the day, they would be like, hey, I'm going to go to this school and we're going to win championships, or I'm going to rebuild the program. Now they're like, I'm starting my own club. I'm not going to get paid this crappy money. I'm going to do it my way. And so you now have maybe inexperienced people going into a sport. And so I told you, like, my son had 2 baseball games at major large high schools. They don't even have a JV baseball team. You just need like 12 kids, 13, 15 kids. You don't have 15 kids for the JV team? Where are they? They don't like it anymore. They're in lacrosse. They quit sports. They hate it. That school's huge. We're talking about like 400 to 500 kids at each grade level. You don't have 15 for a JV team?
Out of 2 classes, or 3 even.
Yeah, it's insane. And so it's scary to see that. So I've heard people who kind of try to predict the future. They're like, I think America will become a pay-to-play high school sports, like they say they do that in Europe. So you want to be on lacrosse or baseball, yeah, you're going to buy your uniform. You're going to pay X number of dollars so we could get buses and pay the coaches and the referees.
Well, that is Texas lacrosse because it's a club. It's not affiliated with the school.
Oh.
So now coaches, they can get paid
Yeah.
$100,000.
Whatever the fundraising is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It makes it tricky.
Which
yeah.
helped to attract this world-class coach down there.
No doubt. Listen, it's great to make money. I want to make more money. That's going to, if that helps me take better care of my family, that's important. But you want to know what else I've said? If I'm in a bad place with bad culture and bad people, I'll take 50% less to be around good people.
Dude, yeah, no amount of money.
No amount of money can pay for your stress and broken heart.
Yeah, and being treated
like a human being. Yeah.
Yeah, much on that. The interesting thing with club sports and the travel ball, I mentioned that there's no time to develop. You are paying not for coaching, not for development. You're just playing for.
You thought you were.
Well,
they
were
said
pitched.
You would. That's right. We're going to
Pitch,
develop.
pun intended here.
We will teach them this. Oh, you're a freshman. You're a pitcher only. At age 14, I'm a pitcher only. What?
Well, even Paul. Excuse me. I combined his name, but Paul Skeens, one of the top MLB pitchers, he did both. And then at LSU, finally, they had to pull one away from him.
Yeah. What do you mean, both or multiple positions?
Pitching and just being a field player.
Yes.
So now
I could pitch and be infield.
At college level, sure.
I can hit and pitch, but they say it's such a skill now, so you got to spend double the time. But what happened to being athletic? Does that not? I don't know, to be honest, Tex.
Yeah, I should hunt down a conversation with just to try to understand where they're.
We should ask Eric Cressy. A couple years ago, I heard EC say that the majority of his pro ball players were D3 guys. which shows
It's the future. We're going to take over.
I think a couple things. Does it mean all right, I was more of a freak in high school. I went D1. How many of these D1 players are getting surgeries? That's, especially if you're a pitcher. That's crazy. So D3, you get a little more rest. You have a little less like mandatory training time. But we find those kids are just, listen, who is at their best at age 18? I don't know anybody. But when you're 20, massive jump. 21, 22, another big jump. And so I told my daughter, I said, Summer, maybe D3 will be better for your body, give you a break. She's like, I'm already training like 4, 5, 6 days a week. She's like, what's the difference? My daughter thrives on the volume. She likes that. But I tell her, I go, you have to start managing that. You have to learn to like ebb and flow it. You can't just like kill 6 days a week. And so I also try to match when I talk about training and coaching. I not only organize training for what you need physically and your sport, but what kind of mindset do you have? Do you love speed work? Well, then I'm going to lean into that a little bit more with you. Do you love lifting heavy? I'm going to lean into it, and then I'm going to say, listen, to really maximize this when you're squatting, we need to add jumps with this. I know you love this, but meet me in the middle and let's add this. At the high school level, these kids love some freedom. So I might say the last 7 minutes, free time. Could do arms, abs. You could do the more sets from the organized workout right there. Or I might say exercise 1A, 1B, 1C, body weight choice. Or it might say jump choice. Or it might say, calisthenics choice. So it may be a little limitation on it, but they like the freedom. And they now think this guy cares. He's giving me freedom. He's not just like telling me everything to do, because these kids like choices and options.
Yeah. And what's funny is at UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio, and on the Friday that I observed practice and training, they just had a TV arm day. So coach just cranked up.
For what sport?
Football.
Yeah.
UTSA football, he just cranked up the music all the way to 10 and just gave them the dumbbell racks. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, whatever you saw on TV or read in a magazine, just go do that for 8 minutes.
Arm. You know what's funny is...
well, you had 100 dudes doing all crazy stuff.
Oh, Dave Tate said 20-plus years ago, like, everybody says, hey, bench press is not functional. He goes, but guess what? If this kid increases his bench press by 20 pounds, 50 pounds, and his arms get bigger, I've now boosted this athlete's confidence. And he goes, what? We always spoke about transfer of training. He's like, what is a greater transfer than confidence? And we hear Joe Ken, Big House, saying that. I remember at Lehigh once, like, the energy of this one training session seemed to be a little bit, like, low. And so I taught them how to do running the rack dumbbell curls. And I was like, you're probably, our strongest guys are probably going to go 40, 50, 60, 50, 40. And if you want a little extra burn, you'll hit 30. And I remember some of the kids were doing like swinging hammer curls with the 110s. Just like, looked like a hang power clean. And so I go back to the coach's office. I said, I got to tell you, team morale was kind of like middle of the road today until we did running the rack curls. Well, they had fun. They were doing like a hip hinge power clean with it. They got a pump. It made them feel better. And that is the art of coaching. Is that a scientific movement? No. But I say this, in wrestling, the match begins when you weigh in. I said, you're teenagers. You see a dude who's jacked and you start thinking, oh no, he's going to kill me. So I said, we need to look strong. Jim Wendler says, win the game off the bus. Yeah. I want to get off the bus and they want to see us jacked and be like, oh man, these guys are going to kill us. Because even in college, a lot of kids are judging the opponent by how they look.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, two thoughts on that. Again, that's the value of the weight room, to help them understand. And it starts with the self-awareness. And part of self-awareness is self-esteem. Like, where do you see yourself?
Yes.
So if we start to help them see themselves as biceps, pecs, traps, all the stuff where the work you put in actually starts to show up on your body, now we can increase self-esteem, build confidence, and create self-awareness.
That could be everything.
Because now, if I see somebody else that's not as jacked as me, I have the opportunity.
And
Versus,
today, the confidence is needed more than ever. There's because of the lack of communication and the being so much phone centric. You don't have these experiences to build confidence. Like, hey, I'm gonna go talk to that girl. What do they do? I'm gonna follow her on this app and like her photo. You're not building your confidence that way. You're like, man, I've been thinking about this girl. I finally spoke to her. Bang. That's like points on the scoreboard of life. And then in the weight room, building that confidence every day, that is everything. But a lot of people, you were mentioning comparing. As a strength coach, guess what I sometimes compare? I'm like, oh my God, we need more technology. We need to measure this. We need to measure that. And then I'm like, most of my kids can't do 5 pull-ups. What? I don't need to measure all this SHYT. And so you got to, dude, I don't want you to edit everything. You have to look at that. To me is crucial. Not only is it one of the lowest hanging fruits, it's also one of the most crucial aspects for a teenager. And if we are real coaches who want to impact beyond sports, you truly want to teach them a life skill. And I always say, I'm very open about this, Tex. Like I have had, I struggled with confidence and a little bit of depression in my younger years. And I always say weight training and lifting weights and the gym, saved my life and gave me a life. You're having a bad day? Train. And I follow that to this day. My morning needs to start with exercise. It sets the whole day up for great things.
and you're controlling what you can control.
Yes.
So more often than not, we have to teach young men and women that a lot of the stuff outside of their controllables, it affects them negatively. So it brings them down and takes away from who
Emotional stress is harder than the toughest leg workout you ever did.
So then helping them step into it, lean into it with action, training, and hard work. Then now they're realizing that, hey, the world out there is not as, or what somebody said on my social media, I'm no longer taking it personally because I'm doing the work. They're just some.
Gary Vaynerchuk does a great job of saying he's like, listen, people don't give a F about you. They don't even know about your life. So stop worrying what they think about you or don't think about you. Just, he tries to teach people as much as he's the entrepreneur business guy, teaches them to be happy with the simpler things in life. And you're saying, hey, don't compare yourself to the other athlete. He says that in business. He's like, stop comparing yourself to this business, that business. You don't even know what's going on behind the scenes. Compare you to you. Be better than what you were and just learn. He's like, happiness is the ultimate rich.
There you go. Well, any parting words from the underground strength coach that you can hand off to our audience here to continue to learn, develop, or just freaking
I love what we said. I would hammer home the genuinely caring part. We can't teach that to anybody. If you don't genuinely care, you won't try to become better at the tactical. You won't try to become better. I know you've done work with Brett Bartholomew, Art of Coaching. He's the master of that stuff. He understands it deeper really than anybody else. But if you care, you'll go down the rabbit hole on those things to try to impact kids better. To this day, sometimes I look back, I'm like, man, I was too tough on that kid. He's probably going through something I don't even know, and I should have had a different avenue of communication with him. And because I care about that kid, I want to make it right. I don't want him to leave school and graduate and be like, man, Coach Evanish never gave me the opportunity. And so if you genuinely care, you start learning how to be better at everything you do. And for the coaches out there, win together. Who can you take with you? What other team? What other people? Don't win at the expense of somebody else, because that to me is not winning. I don't want to step and hurt people on my way to something more for me. That to me is, I don't feel good about that. And so it was upsetting and heartbreaking to hear about the football coach talking down to this lacrosse coach, even if that lacrosse coach was not world class. Any lacrosse, we don't need to talk down on anybody. How is that good? So, and then from legacy, everything I say, Tex, is nothing I've created on my own. I've learned it from books and other coaches. So, All Blacks, it said, better players, better humans are better players and better teammates. That's why they sweep the sheds. That's why we leave it better than we found it. Oh, we used this weight room. Did you clean it up or did you leave it a mess? Oh, we were in the visiting team's locker room. Did you clean? Did you sweep the sheds or did you leave a mess? Leave it better than you found it. Boom. Boom.
Easy day.
My
Glad
bro.
I get 2 days to hang
Yes.
out in Summer Strong. This is always a pleasure, man. And
Yes.
maybe one of these days I'll get back to Jersey, but
Yeah.
we'll probably just be hanging out here.
I remember when you were in Jersey, my dog was in love with you.
Most dogs
Who's
are.
not?
I'm a
That's
great
right.
Dog guy.
Yeah.
Dog guy.
And I was impressed with the appetite. I went to the old time butcher and got all those steaks. It was you and
Goodfellow.
Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys crushed the meats.
Well, we drove from D.C. up there.
Was it DC or Philly? You were in Philly, I think.
When we were D.C., he and I lived in D.C. together. We drove up to Staten Island for
Oh, was it Staten Island? Okay.
Staten Island for a seminar, and on the way back,
Manasquan.
Zach, my friend, how are
That's
you?
right. Let's go.
Cool. All right, Underground Strength Gym.
Yep.
At Underground
Yeah, Underground
Strength
Strength
Coach?
Gym on Instagram, Strong Life Podcast.
Strong Life
And then I have
Podcast.
Z Evanesh. I think if they Google that stuff, it'll all pop up. Yep. I'm pretty easy to find.
Easy day.
Thank
All
you,
right,
bro.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
And scene.
It was great.
Oh, wait.
Do I shut this off, Tex?